Hello and welcome. My name is Philip Eyre, and I'm going to be talking with you about dissolving hostility in your workplace. Now, what I teach you through this course might have the effect of actually dissolving hostility coming from other people within a workplace. It might have the effect of dissolving hostility that's coming from within you, and it may have no effect whatsoever. So we need to prepare ourselves for all of those possibilities. All of them will involve a deeper understanding of where that hostility comes from, what the roots of it are, and just by knowing that, we gain more choices about how we react to what's going on in our environment. We might choose to walk away from the workplace, and we might choose to do nothing, and we might have the ability to shift what's going on either in ourselves or in the environment. Let me take you into this whole idea of hostility, and in order to do that, I need to walk you back decades. In fact, I'm going to walk you so far back that you are going to have memory of coming out of your mother's womb a week earlier. Because that was a profound moment in your life when you were so vulnerable that you've never experienced that at any point in your life since then. If your mom was feeding you, or your dad or someone else who was taking care of you was feeding you, you would be fed. If they didn't, you would cease to exist. If you got too cold, they could make you warmer. If you got too warm, they could help you get cool. None of this was within your capability of doing for yourself. At that point in your life, you were 100% dependent on the people who were taking care of you. Now, that's an incredible level of dependence to have on a person, because all that it takes to send you into unbelievable stress is for them to withdraw that support of you. And few of us have survived having that support completely withdrawn and living to tell the story of it. But in contrast, every single one of us has an experience of what it felt like to be a 1 week old when we were crying. And because our parent was taking care of another sibling, or they were using the washroom, or they had something else that was competing with their focus on us at that particular moment, there were times, and it may not have been at 1 week old, it may have been at 1 year old, but there would have been times when we found ourselves without the people or the person who was meant to be taking care of us, who we depended on for support, because without them we were completely powerless. That person, in all likelihood, had no idea how much power they had at that moment. And they probably had no idea what impact their unavailability was happening on us, because from the perspective of the adult who has integrated the concept of time without even remaining aware that this is something that is a construct, that is something that our system develops to explain a sequence of things that are going on in our lives. But our parent, who needs to answer the door while we're crying, knows that they will get to us in a couple of minutes. If they need to use the toilet, they will be back. And so it's no great big deal, because they have a sense of the past, they have a sense of the present, and they have a sense of the future. The 1 week old child, on the other hand, has none of these ideas, has no ability to conceive that past, present, and future even exist. Our brain simply hasn't had enough experience of being in the world to be able to anticipate that breach in connection that we're experiencing momentarily will ever be repaired. So if you were to put yourself into the experience of a 1-week-old and you've been that child, what you would be experiencing when you're crying and there's no one there to respond to you is a high level, an incredibly high level of desperation, because you've got no idea that that breach in connection will ever get repaired. When your parent turns their attention away from you, leaves the room, does whatever it is that they do, you have no way of knowing that they will ever come back. And our systems are sophisticated enough to tell us that we're in grave danger. So we will do everything in our ability to try and restore that connection with our parent if we're feeling their absence. What options do we have? Essentially, we can laugh and we can cackle and we can smile and we can possibly reach out, but there's not that much that we can do. We can raise our voice, we can shriek, we can cry, we can squeal, we can try everything available to us to try and restore connection with that adult. But when we don't succeed and time goes by, we become increasingly desperate, increasingly stressed out, and our entire system goes into a trauma response. And it sets off all of the alarms in our nervous system. And that traumatic memory, it was too early for us to articulate using words. Remember, at 1 week old or 1 month old, we had no words. So we can't retrieve that memory from our nervous systems or our brains or wherever it's stored in our body. It wouldn't come back without any kind of sense about it, because it got put away without the use of vocabulary and with the concepts that would allow us to be able to retrieve it from such a young age. But while our brain can't recall that, our nervous system remembers how it felt, that desperate feeling in the pit of our stomach, in just that absolute stress going through all of our body. And the reason we can remember that is because we continue to feel that. So whenever, as an adult, we get placed in a situation where we're not in control of our connectedness to those people who have become the substitutes for mommy and daddy, we bring them into our lives because we don't learn how to provide that connection for ourselves. So we're always depending on someone outside of ourselves to be that connection factor, that love source. When that love source is rejecting us or isolating us or ignoring us, our nervous system brings back that memory of how it felt when we were that 1 week old. And it's an excruciatingly painful experience. It's an experience that we will stop the moment that we can, and we will do everything in our power to avoid ever going back to that horrific experience that we had, not just once when we were 1 week old, but throughout our childhood, every time our parents weren't available to heed our cries for help. So all of this trauma, this embodied memory, is maintained within the cells of our body, and in order to trigger it, it's enough for someone to be sarcastic, for them to judge us, for them to criticize us, to feel that separation again. And it'll plunge us across time back to being a 1 week old. And even though we may be inhabiting the body of an adult, we will begin feeling the emotions and the sensations that we felt when we were an infant. It is a profound experience. It is just absolutely mind-bending that our psyche can do that to us. where it can whip us out of the present into the past, and we will be experiencing the same emotions that we felt 3, 4, 5 decades earlier.